guys, my name is Neil and welcome to NEEL Workshop Zone. So in this episode we're going to be talking about different types of arguments. So in our previous episodes we kind of talked about parameters and arguments and how they work. So in this episode we're going to be talking about the different types of arguments. So I really recommend checking out the previous video because there's a lot of really important information that gets used in this, otherwise you won't be really able to understand this episode. So without any further ado, let's talk about different types of arguments. So, in our previous episode we talked about arguments and how they work. So in that episode I talked about, there can be number of arguments or parameters. So for example, you can have a simple function like so let's say the function name is apple. In the previous video I have told that there can be multiple arguments. So for example, you can have apple, banana, etc. So there can be multiple functions, but one really important thing to note here is if you wrote two functions, then you must also call two functions. So for example, let's write print apple plus is a fruit and also banana. This is I'm writing it a little bit, I'm writing it just for understanding. So here if you write a single one, so for example here you wrote two functions, right? So instead of writing two of them, if you want to write one, so for example you write something like fruit or something like apple, then the computer gonna accept it, because if you get two arguments or two parameters, then it should also call the same number of arguments or parameters, and there shouldn't be more or less. Now instead of putting a single apple, if I wrote multiple of them, so if I wrote something like apple, banana and guava, it still won't accept it because the number of arguments that needs to be called needs to be equal to the defined arguments. So that is a really important rule to understand in arguments. So now let's talk about arbitrary arguments. So when you write a function, sometimes you don't really know how many functions you're going to write. So for example, imagine you wrote a simple one. So imagine you wrote something like fruits. So when you normally write a function called fruits, you won't really know you won't really know what you want to write. So imagine that you don't really know what you want to write in the function. So after a little bit of more code, you want to find out something and you want to write some more else. So what you do in this situation is instead of just taking time for it, you can use something known as asterisk. So this is arbitrary argument. So if you don't know the number of functions you're going to be calling, then you can use something like this. Now, if you write something like, multiple values, so if I write like apple, banana, etc., and if I write multiple of them, it will accept it since the program doesn't know how many it's going to call. So that is why asterisk can be important. So that is how arbitrary arguments works. So if you don't know the number of functions that you're going to call, you can use an asterisk. Now let's talk about the next type of arguments, which is keyword arguments. So keyword arguments are also the same, but these are used to define the order in which it works. So for example, let's take another one and let's say something like apple banana, and go. So after writing this, you can see that I have written 3 functions. Now imagine you want to assign multiple functions to a similar set of value and they need to be in a different order. So you can do something as apple is equals to red, or you can do something like banana is equals to yellow. You can write things like that, or you can just write a simple one. So you can just define them and use them for future use, but for now you can just take a simple one. So you can write something like Goa, or something like my underscore function Goa is equals to green. So you can write something like that. So if you print it, it will print Goa is equals to green. So you can use multiple functions as well, and it depends on it. But there's still a lot more complicated things to talk about this, like how much functions and how many functions to use and how many you can use, etc. We'll talk about it in the practical episode. But for now, this is the concept of what they use. Arbitrary functions are used to are used when you don't know the number of functions you'll call, and the other types are like that. So yeah, that is basically it. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out any new videos. And that's all folks, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.